Today, we're diving headfirst into prompt engineering for artificial intelligence.
Mm.
Ever wonder how to get those large language models to really understand what you want?
Yeah,
That's what we're all about today.
exactly. As we interact with AI more and more, knowing how to craft effective prompts isn't just for the tech experts anymore.
Right.
It's becoming a really key skill for, well, anyone looking to get accurate and useful results from these powerful
And
tools.
that's why you're here, the learner. You want to get smart fast without getting too lost in the weeds.
Mm.
So we've gone through a ton of material excerpts from the Coursera course, Advanced Prompt Engineering for Everyone.
That was a good one.
Yeah, and a fantastic YouTube video transcript from AWS developers called Learn Better Prompt Engineering in 7 Minutes.
Super practical.
And also a really helpful Google Cloud guide on prompt engineering for AI.
So a good mix of sources.
Definitely our mission to break down the essential ideas and even some more advanced techniques of prompt engineering so you can really tap into what generative AI can do without feeling, well, overwhelmed.
Okay, so to kick things off then, what exactly is prompt engineering in a nutshell?
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Based on what we've looked at, prompt engineering is really the art and science, I guess,
Yeah, art and science is good.
of carefully designing and refining the instructions you give to AI models,
Hmm.
especially those big language models.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about how we guide them to give us the specific answers or outputs we're actually looking for.
Think of it like giving directions. A really good prompt. It's like a clear, detailed set of instructions.
Map.
Exactly, like a map. Telling the AI exactly where you want it to go and maybe what you want it to do along the way. Sometimes, yeah, it even involves showing it a picture of the destination.
Right. So it's not just about, being nice to the computer or something.
Not at all.
The better you are at crafting your prompts, the better the AI will be at giving you high quality and, crucially, relevant results.
Absolutely. A fuzzy prompt often leads to a fuzzy answer.
That's a great way to put it.
So to get a bit more specific about what makes a prompt effective, there are a few key things we should probably cover.
Okay.
One of the first is the actual format of the prompt itself.
The format, you mean like how I structure my question or instruction?
Precisely. How you organize it, the style you use, it can have a big impact on the AI's response. The Google Cloud Guide pointed out that different AI models can have different preferences,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, some might understand plain language questions best, others might respond better to more direct commands, or even like structured inputs where you fill in specific fields.
Huh. So it's not just the words I use, but how I actually put them together.
Exactly. And then there's the really crucial aspect of context and examples. If you give the AI relevant background information, maybe show it some examples of what you're looking for, you'll often get much better results. It just helps the AI understand the task more clearly.
That makes total sense. Like if I'm asking for a poem,
Yeah.
just saying write a poem is okay,
Yeah.
but telling the AI I want, say, a funny limerick about a cat wearing a hat,
Yeah.
that'll give me a much better starting point.
Absolutely. That's a perfect example. The Coursera material actually calls this in-context learning,
Ah,
providing the guidance right there within the prompt. Then there's the idea of fine-tuning and adapting.
so like tweaking my prompts based on what the AI gives me back. Iterating.
Exactly that. It's often an ongoing process. You refine your prompts based on the AI's feedback, trying to improve its performance over time.
Right.
And finally, something important for longer interactions, if you're having a back and forth with the AI.
Mm-hmm.
Designing your prompts so they maintain context across multiple turns is really important for a natural, coherent conversation.
Okay, got it. So thinking about format, providing context and examples, fine-tuning and keeping the flow in longer chats. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, the Google Cloud Guide also talked about different types of prompts. It sounds like we're getting into categories of asking.
We are, yeah. One really fundamental type is the direct prompt, also known as zero-shot prompting.
Zero shot. Sounds a bit like you're going in blind.
Huh. Well, in a way, you kind of are. You're giving the model a pretty straightforward instruction or question without providing any extra context or specific examples beforehand.
Okay.
Things like asking for ideas, maybe a quick summary, or simple translation often fall into this category, just a direct request.
Gotcha. Then we have one-shot, few-shot, and multi-shot prompts. What's the key difference there?
Okay, so these all involve giving the model one or more examples of the kind of input and output you want before you give it your actual prompt.
Ah, like showing a model answer first.
Exactly. It helps it understand the task, especially the format or style you're after. Here's what good looks like. Now you try.
Right, that makes a lot of sense for more complicated requests, I imagine.
Definitely. And then there are chain of thought prompts. That sounds intriguing. Like it helps the AI, I think, step by step.
It does. What's fascinating about chain of thought, or COT prompting, is that it actually encourages the model to break down complex reasoning into a sequence of intermediate steps.
Instead of just jumping to the final answer, you're guiding it to sort of think through the problem logically, like asking it to show its work, you know?
Yeah.
And this technique actually revealed some pretty surprising reasoning abilities in these large language models.
Like it suddenly got better at maths or logic just because you asked it to explain its thinking?
Kind of, yeah. It was a big discovery.
Yeah.
And the Google Cloud Guide even mentions zero-shot COT prompts.
Okay, how did that work?
That's where you ask the model to perform those reasoning steps even without giving it specific examples of how to do it first. You might just add a simple phrase like, let's think step by step to your prompt.
Huh. Yeah, just a little nudge. Okay, that's a good range of prompt types to keep in mind. Really highlights how we can structure our interactions.
Yeah.
Now let's get down to brass tacks, those practical applications and examples,
Yeah.
because this is where we see how prompt engineering really makes a difference, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is where the rubber meets the road. Let's maybe start with how it impacts language and text generation.
Sounds good.
The possibilities there are really wide open. For creative writing, for instance, you can craft prompts that specify, well, everything.
Like,
Genre, tone, writing style, even specific plot points. Imagine prompting an AI to write a short science fiction story with a humorous tone about a robot who tries to learn stand-up comedy.
yeah, okay.
And then you could even refine it by asking for like a specific kind of punchline or character trait.
That's way more targeted, yeah. Much more likely to give me something interesting than just write a story.
Exactly.
What about dealing with, just too much information? Information overload.
Ugh, that's where summarization comes in, super handy. You can instruct the AI to generate concise summaries of long texts.
Like research papers.
Yeah, like a research paper on renewable energy or a long news article. Get the key findings without reading the whole thing.
Nice.
And of course, translation is another major one. You just need to be clear about the source and target languages. Translate, hello, how are you, from English to French. Simple, direct.
Super practical stuff. And I can see how being clear about the desired output format, like give me bullet points, would be crucial there too.
Definitely.
What about creating conversations?
Yes, dialogue generation. It's a powerful tool. You can design prompts to simulate conversations. Think about creating chatbots for customer service.
Okay.
Or even drafting scripts for, I don't know, a play or a video. You could prompt it with, you are a helpful librarian chatbot. Respond to this user query. Where can I find books on ancient Rome?
Right. Setting the persona. Cool. Okay, moving on to question answering this. Feels like a core strength of AI, doesn't it? How does prompt engineering help here?
Well, you can tailor your questions. Ask open-ended questions to encourage more comprehensive answers, like, explain the main challenges and opportunities in AI today.
Broad scope.
Exactly. Or, if you need specific info, ask more targeted questions. What's the boiling point of water at sea level? Or maybe, based on this supplied article, what are the main factors contributing to bee population decline?
So the more specific my question, the more likely I am to get a precise answer. Makes sense.
It does, and the Google Cloud Guide also mentioned other types like multiple choice,
Oh, yeah.
hypothetical, and even opinion-based questions.
Okay, how would those work?
For multiple choice, you just provide the options right in the prompt. Which of these is the capital of Australia? A, Sydney, B, Melbourne, C, Canberra.
Simple enough.
Hypothetical questions encourage the AI to reason and speculate, like what might be the long-term effects of widespread remote work.
Okay, getting it to think ahead.
And for opinion-based ones, you can even ask for the AI's perspective, but importantly, ask for its reasoning.
Ah, the why.
Exactly. Like, based on current trends, do you think VR will become mainstream in the next decade? Explain your reasoning.
That last one definitely gets into some interesting predictive territory. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Something maybe more tangible. Code generation. I know this is a huge and growing area for AI.
Absolutely. And prompt engineering is vital for getting useful code out of these models.
How so?
Well, you can use prompts for code completion, for starters. Give the AI a piece of code and ask it to finish it.
Like an autocomplete on steroids?
Sort of, like write the rest of this Python function that checks if a number is prime.
Okay.
Code translation between programming languages is another really powerful use case.
Oh, nice.
You could ask it to, say, Convert the following JavaScript code snippet to Python. Insert JavaScript code here.
That's incredibly useful for developers working across different languages. Wow. And I guess you could also prompt for making existing code, like, better.
Precisely. Prompting for code optimization. You ask the AI to analyze code and suggest improvements for efficiency or maybe readability.
And debugging. Can it help find bugs?
Yes, even debugging. You can provide code that you know has errors and ask the AI to identify the problem and maybe suggest a fix. Find and correct the null pointer exception in this Java code.
Okay, that's impressive. We've covered a lot: text, questions, code. What about the visual side? Image generation is blowing up right now.
Yes, and prompt engineering is absolutely key there too. Maybe even more, obviously, sometimes.
How so?
For realistic images, the more detailed your description, generally the better the result you'll get.
Give me an example.
Okay, think about prompting. A hyper-realistic photograph of a fluffy ginger cat sleeping peacefully on a worn, vintage leather armchair with a bright sunbeam illuminating its fur. Lots of detail there.
I can almost see it.
Right. You can also specify artistic styles. Create a digital painting in the Impressionist style of Monet, depicting a rainy city street at dusk.
Okay, specifying style.
For more abstract ideas, you can use prompts that focus on concepts or emotions. Generate an abstract image representing the feeling of hope, using primarily bright, warm colors and flowing, upward-moving lines.
Interesting. Prompting for a feeling.
And even image editing can be guided by prompts. Things like, remove the crowd of people in the background of this photo and replace it with a peaceful, misty mountain landscape.
Whoa.
Or even something super specific like, take the person in this picture and add a majestic, slightly goofy-looking cat sitting on their shoulder.
Huh. Okay, the level of control you can get with a good prompt is pretty amazing across all these areas.
It really is.
So with all these different ways to use prompts, what are some general strategies for just writing better prompts no matter what the task is?
Good question. The Google Cloud Guide had some really solid advice here. First, always aim for clear goals and objectives.
Be clear about what you want.
Exactly. Use strong action verbs, write, summarize, translate, compare, generate, tell the AI what to do, and define the desired output length format. If it matters, specify the target audience.
Audience matters.
It can, yeah. Instead of just summarize this, maybe say, write a 3-paragraph summary of this article's main arguments suitable for a high school student.
Ah, okay, tailoring it. That's a great point. What else?
Providing context and background info,
Right.
really important.
Right, we touched on that.
Include relevant facts, data
Right.
points, maybe even mention specific documents if the AI needs to refer to them. Define key terms if they might be ambiguous.
So give the AI the foundation it needs to work from. Don't make it guess.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And like we discussed earlier with the shot types using few-shot prompting.
Giving examples.
Yeah, giving those input-output examples can be incredibly helpful, especially for guiding style or level of detail. It's like showing it a template.
Show, don't just tell. Even for AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another really crucial strategy is just be specific.
Avoid being vague.
Right. Use precise language. Avoid ambiguity. If you have a complex task, try breaking it down into smaller, more manageable steps right in the prompt.
Okay, so instead of create a marketing plan.
Maybe prompt with a series of steps. 1. Identify the target audience. 2. Suggest 3 key marketing messages. 3. Outline a social media campaign strategy. Much clearer.
Definitely less overwhelming for the AI, I bet.
Yeah.
What about the actual process, like figuring out the best prompt? Is it always perfect first try?
Oh, definitely not. That's where iteration and experimentation are absolutely key.
Trial and error.
Totally. Don't be afraid to try different phrasings, different keywords. Adjust the level of detail you provide. Play with the prompt length. It's often a process of discovery, figuring out what works best for that specific AI model and that specific task you have in mind. Think of it like a conversation where you refine your questions based on the answers you're getting.
So prompt engineering is really a skill you build up over time through practice.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And we also talked about chain of thought prompting as a type of prompt.
Hmm.
Is it also a strategy for getting better results?
Yes, absolutely. Using chain of thought prompting strategically can significantly boost the quality of responses for tasks that need reasoning. By explicitly encouraging the model to explain its thinking process step by step, or even just guiding it through a logical sequence of thought within your prompt, it helps it stay on track for complex problems.
Okay, lots of really practical advice there. Now, I remember the AWS developers video transcript also offered some very specific techniques. What really stood out from that source?
Yeah, the AWS video was great for concrete tips. One key insight was framing prompt engineering as learning to ask the right questions.
Okay.
Just like talking to a person, how you ask really matters for the quality of the answer. And they stressed that the best way to prompt isn't some universal formula. It really depends on the specific task, the data you're working with, and, crucially, the particular large language model you're using.
Yep.
They all have quirks.
Right. Context matters. And didn't they have a really good example of improving a prompt? Something about business insights.
They did, yeah. It was a great illustration. They showed how a basic request, like summarize business insights, could be transformed
Wow.
by adding layers, specifying the AI's role. You are a business analyst, giving clear context, analyze this quarterly sales data, outlining focus areas, identify trends, top products, areas for improvement, asking for explanations and metrics, setting a word limit, and even requesting a specific format like a bulleted list.
Wow. Okay. That really shows the difference adding detail and structure can make. It went from vague to super actionable.
Exactly. And they also boiled things down to 5 key principles for designing effective prompts.
Okay. What were those? Let's break them down.
First, they really hammered home providing simple, clear, and complete instruction.
Be explicit.
Yes, explicit expectations. Minimize potential confusion. They used a classification task as an example you need to clearly define the possible categories up front for the AI to classify accurately.
Clarity again. That seems to be the golden thread through all of this. Okay. What was number 2?
This was an interesting structural tip. Place the main question or instruction at the very end of the prompt.
At the end. Why?
The idea is it helps the model focus on the core request after it's processed all the context and instructions you provided earlier. For classification, they also suggested putting the answer choices at the end too.
Huh. That's counterintuitive maybe, but I can see the logic. Put the action item last. Okay. Third principle.
This one's a bit more technical, relevant if you're interacting with models via APIs, programmatically.
Right.
They highlighted using separator characters properly, like using N, the new line character, especially with models like Anthropic's Claude or Amazon's Titan models when you call their APIs.
So formatting for the machine.
Basically, yeah. Using separators helps the model parse the different parts of your prompt correctly, the instructions, the context, the question.
Good tip for the developers listening. Number 4.
Using output indicators. This goes back to being specific about format.
Tell it what you want the answer to look like.
Exactly. Do you want a single phrase? Bullet points, a chunk of code, a specific word count or character limit, a numbered list. Tell the model how you want the output structured. It makes the result much more usable for you.
Guiding the presentation, not just the content. Makes sense. And the final tip from the AWS team.
This one gets into the more advanced controls, the knobs and dials you can sometimes tweak. Using inference parameters.
Inference parameters, like settings.
Yeah, settings that influence the model's output generation. They mention things like temperature.
Temperature.
Yeah, it controls creativity or randomness. Lower temperature means more focused, predictable answers. Higher temperature means more creative, maybe unexpected outputs.
Interesting trade-off.
Also things like maximum generation length, how long the response can be. Top P, which also affects randomness by limiting the pool of next word choices, and stop sequences specific words or characters that tell the model, okay, you're done now.
Wow. Okay. So you can get really granular with controlling the AI's behavior. Lowering the temperature for factual stuff, maybe raising it for brainstorming.
Exactly. Understanding those parameters gives you another layer of control.
Okay, so the AWS video offered some really hands-on practical techniques there, especially around precision, structure, and even tweaking the underlying settings.
Very useful stuff.
Now, we've talked a lot about how to do prompt engineering. Let's just briefly touch on why it's so important again. What are the big advantages of getting good at this?
Well, the benefits are pretty significant, I think. First and foremost, effective prompt engineering just leads to much better model performance.
Better answers.
Yeah, more accurate, more relevant, often more insightful outputs. Because you're giving the AI clearer, more targeted guidance. It knows what you want.
That's...
Secondly, it gives you much greater control and predictability over how the AI behaves.
That control aspect seems really valuable, especially if you're relying on it for important tasks.
It really is. When you can craft prompts effectively, you have a much better sense of how the model is likely to respond. That leads to a more reliable, more efficient interaction overall.
Less frustration, probably.
Definitely less frustration. And ultimately, all of this enhances the user experience, right? It just makes working with AI easier, more satisfying, and more productive.
So mastering prompt engineering isn't just about making the AI smarter. It's about making our interaction with the AI smarter, smoother, and more effective.
That's a perfect summary. It's a powerful combination.
Well, we have definitely taken a deep dive into the world of prompt engineering today. Pulled lots of insights from that Coursera course, the AWS developers video, and the Google Cloud Guide.
Yeah, it's clear this is a really important skill, and it's evolving fast as the AI models themselves evolve.
We've covered the fundamentals, what it is, the key elements, different prompt types.
Right, and looked at a whole range of practical applications: writing, summarizing, coding, image generation.
Plus, those valuable strategies for crafting better prompts, the specific techniques from AWS, and the real advantages of getting proficient. So, the learner, we really hope this has given you a solid understanding and, maybe more importantly, some practical techniques you can start experimenting with right away.
The capabilities of generative AI are truly remarkable, aren't they?
They really are. And as we've seen today, your ability to craft those precise, insightful prompts is genuinely the key to unlocking all that potential.
So we definitely encourage you, take these ideas, try out different prompting methods, different approaches in your own interactions with whatever AI tools you use.
Yeah, experiment. See what works best for the specific tasks you're trying to accomplish. It's a learning process.
Absolutely.
And on that note, here's a final thought for you to consider as we wrap up. As AI continues its incredibly rapid development, this ability to communicate effectively with these systems through precise, thoughtful prompts, it's likely going to become an even more crucial skill, right?
Seems inevitable.
So the question is, what other fundamental ways might this ability, this skill of clearly articulating our needs and ideas to an AI, influence our relationship with technology and maybe even with each other in the years to come?
That's a big question.
Something to think about until our next deep dive. Thanks for tuning in.